Hi and welcome. This is Homebody Rundown and I'm HR. This is my last week, partial week of Pantry Challenge. Link in the description to the YouTube channel that inspired me to do this. The idea is to use up foods that I had stored in the refrigerator, freezers, and pantry. I have been shopping over the past couple months, but in a limited capacity. There are 4 of us eating most of our meals at home. That's me and my husband and our 2 younger kids. They are both in high school. We eat a mostly vegetarian diet. At the end of today's video, I'm going to go over my thoughts about the challenge and things I learned. These pecans have been in the deep freezer for a long time, probably a year, and I do not like stuff being in the freezer that long. I tend to rotate through stuff pretty quickly because I will throw away stuff if it is freezer burned. Luckily, these were not, and I am going to toast them for just a few minutes and then keep them in the refrigerator for snacking. I'm putting them onto an air-baked cookie sheet with parchment paper and doing a couple batches so they are not crowded. Since the oven was going to be on anyway, I made up another tube of crescent rolls. I bought these in December. I think their best by date had just passed, maybe last week, but they were still good. I let the pecans cool on a couple plates, and then I'm using the parchment paper to easily pour them into the jar for storage. These are so good. I've already eaten quite a few. A few random food preps this morning, starting with getting these Triscuits into a jar. Finally opened the last box of these. Next, filling a jar with chia seeds. I bought these pour top lids on Amazon and I like them. I'll put a link in the description, but just FYI, they are made with aluminum, which I know not all people like to use. I eat these for the nutrition, but man, I really don't like how they look. It's like a bunch of little insects. Getting out some pinto beans. I won't add water to these until tonight to let them soak overnight, but right now I am taking time to really look through these. Anytime I'm making beans, I'm always worried there could be a rock, which I've only found one time, and that was years ago. Prepping some whole powdered milk. I've made this in the KitchenAid before, but I'm only making 2 cups this time. So I'm going to try just using the hand mixer or a stick mixer. It works really well. I didn't notice any lumps. I will store it in a glass jar in the refrigerator. This is the next day. The beans soaked overnight in a brine, and I have rinsed them several times now. They'll go in the Instant Pot with fresh water and seasonings. Like most weeks, I did make some hummus. Okay, this is a lot of seasonings, I know, but it's for a good cause, making some lentils with tomato sauce. A lot of these flavors are similar to butter chicken, but I'm not following a recipe, I just taste it as I go. We'll also add most of this bag of riced cauliflower. This is about the only vegetable I have left in the freezers, and I have several bags of this. Going to cook this with seasonings. Normally I would add raw onion, but I ran out of onions, so instead using dried onions. Adding half of a not chicken vegetarian bouillon cube and a garden veggie bouillon cube. Also added in more of that cauliflower and roasted garlic powder. I am adding a considerable amount of fat to this. This is avocado oil and it smells awesome. While that's cooking, I'm going to work on these pinto beans. They have been cooling for a little while, and now I will remove some of the liquid, but I won't discard it yet. I usually have to add some of this back in after it cools down more. At this point, I add in lime juice and mash the beans some. This is rather arm-intensive work, so hubby helped me do this part. Back to the stove, adding in the last jar of tomato paste. I have been hoarding this. I did not have nearly enough for the pantry challenge, and it is probably one of my favorite ingredients. Adding in some leftover roasted vegetables from the refrigerator, and 2 kinds of lentils that I found in the freezer and defrosted in the refrigerator overnight. Also chickpeas and some lemon juice. A jar of crushed tomatoes. We'll let this simmer for a few minutes before I add frozen peas and just a small amount of water. I don't always add dairy to this, but had a little Greek yogurt left in this container and some heavy cream, but not very much. Finally, some cilantro that I prepped and had in the freezer. Normally I would serve this over rice, but this brown rice was in the refrigerator and cold, so I just added it in, put some crumbles of feta cheese on top, and it was delicious. Going to use some of these beans to make quesadillas, very basic here with cheese and some of that cooked brown rice. These have thickened up significantly, so adding back in some of the bean cooking liquid. Made extra quesadillas for snacks or lunches. They reheat nicely in the toaster oven, and I have enough refried beans to keep some out for this week, and this larger Snapware container will go in the freezer. Made this pizza a few weeks ago and it was so good I'm making it again. It is using the 00 King Arthur pizza flour. The recipe I'm using I found on the back of the bag. I just used this QR code, but I will link it in the description. I like that you just add everything to the mixing bowl. It's very simple steps. It is not a large amount of dough, so my KitchenAid can handle kneading it, no problem. And I think every item I use for these pizzas tonight has been in the house since last year, including the cheese because that was in the freezer. Using the proofing feature on my oven, but like usual, when I go to put something in the oven, I forgot to adjust the racks. Pantry items I'll use on the pizza include sauce, roasted red peppers, black olives, and this artichoke bruschetta topping. I got this out a few days ago and have been eating it on crackers. To bake the pizzas, I'm going to use this cast iron griddle and a round stoneware baking thing. So after this had been proofing for a while, I was supposed to take it out and divide it into 2 sections and let it rise more, but we were going for a walk and all I did was punch it down. To divide the dough, I'm using the bottom piece from a box grater. I need to make one crust that's more rectangular for the griddle and a round one for the baking stone. This one will be cheese only. I do like to add some olive oil before I add the sauce. This is an experiment tonight as I am not preheating the griddle or the stone. I want to see if the crust will bake through before the topping is burned. It would just be a way to make pizza with less effort. Got a little heavy-handed here with the sauce. Using mozzarella cheese I got out of the freezer a few days ago. Also adding nutritional yeast and a sprinkle of garlic salt. Okay, looks like I really got the size good on this round one. I forgot to do this on the cheese pizza, but thought it might be a good idea, especially since the stone is not preheated. Adding the artichoke topping and using up that extra sauce, and then getting more out of the jar. These are chopped roasted red peppers, roughly sliced black olives, and some red pepper flakes. Nutritional yeast and crumbling up feta cheese that's defrosted from the freezer. Then not too much mozzarella cheese to help hold everything in place. So it was worth a shot, but the cheese got pretty well done in order to get the crust baked through, which it is, I checked. The baking stone turned out a little better as far as not being as toasted on the top. Next time I will prep the pizzas on the bottom of a baking sheet so I can slide them onto preheated surfaces. That was a suggestion from a viewer and sounds like a good idea. A random pantry item that really needs to be used up, maraschino cherries. I bought these at Whole Foods a long time ago. They're not dyed bright red, but they taste fantastic. I bought them for drinks, but I may need to get some ice cream sundae ingredients too. Going to make a pasta sauce utilizing this bag of frozen spinach. This will be a white sauce, and I'll use quite a bit of this roasted garlic from the freezer. Salting water for whole wheat penne. Checking the spinach and getting the pasta in the water. Because it's whole wheat, it takes quite a bit longer. Before I get very far into this, I just want to say I ended up not liking this very much. I guess it tasted fine. I just don't think I'm a big fan of white sauces. I'd rather have a tomato sauce or just vegetables with seasoning and olive oil. But I'm going to show what I did. This is a roux. I've added garlic, red pepper flakes, salt, pepper, black pepper, and then slowly whisking in whole milk that I mixed up from a powder. The cooked spinach and the rest of the artichoke mix are in, adding nutritional yeast and Parmesan cheese and some lemon juice. My husband liked it, but I added some diced sun-dried tomatoes packed in oil, also a pantry item. Just, it needed something else. Today I'm going to make soft pretzels. I have made this recipe a couple times, but not with our newer oven. We first made these early in the pandemic when we were in our bread making phase. I will link the recipe in the description. It is from pinchofyum.com. The dough is easy to mix up, not a lot of ingredients. Rolling out the pretzel dough takes a lot more time. The dough ended up being very sticky. I'm not sure if I should add more flour, but decided against it. It's been so long since I've made these, I can't remember if this is how it was before. While that is rising, I was going to prep a crumble top for a fruit crisp, but realized I am out of brown sugar. I've seen on the Acre Homestead YouTube channel that you can make your own brown sugar with white sugar and molasses. So I'm just making this up. I did not look up any actual recipe. I thought I'd try about a teaspoon with 3/4 cup of sugar. I should have done this in the food processor, but the little processor is dirty and I'd rather not use the big one because it takes up so much space in the dishwasher. I ended up putting this in the microwave for a few seconds to soften the molasses, and that did seem to help incorporating the two, but It was way too much molasses. It just tastes like molasses. Since this dough was so sticky, I'm adding some flour to help get it out of the bowl. Technically, I would not call this a pantry challenge food. I just bought this flour last week. However, I have realized I need to use up a lot of yeast. I bought way too much, so I do need to be making things with yeast. The recipe says it makes 6 to 8 large pretzels. I was attempting to cut this into equal pieces, but didn't really get the first cut right, so there will be 4 large and 4 even larger pretzels. Supposed to roll this out into a rope, but that wasn't working, so I ended up just stretching it. Now I have to make it into a pretzel shape and dip it in a baking soda solution. This is an egg wash. I don't know how thick I'm supposed to put this on. Honestly, I usually skip this step in recipes, but I figure it probably helps the salt to stick. Okay, here's how they look before they go in the oven and after they come out. They ended up really dark, even with the minimum amount of time, but they are not burned, and youngest child really loves these. It's one of her favorites. Here is a look at the inside. They were very soft and have a great texture. I think if I wanted to take it up one more level, I would put a little melted butter on these and maybe a little more salt. Back to the fruit cobbler. I let some blueberries defrost a while. I just bought those last week. No, 2 weeks ago. But the peaches are a pantry item, as are all of the crumble ingredients. This ended up being a little thick. I think next time I will include the juice from the peaches. And I did not use all of the crumble topping. It was just too much flour, I think. Added some small pieces of butter and avocado oil for fats. Decided to make a honey mustard dipping sauce with yellow mustard, honey, and sour cream. This was pretty good. Of course, it was a lot of honey. For dinner tonight, making some white rice in the Instant Pot. Those that want can make a rice bowl with the other ingredients. Chopping up cashews, and scrambling eggs. The cobbler's done. I'm really glad I added the blueberries. They were delicious, and it's just nice to have 2 fruits instead of 1, and I didn't taste the molasses at this point. For the rice bowls, got out 3 sauces. These are all items I keep in stock in the pantry: peanut sauce, Japanese barbecue sauce, and sambal oelek. Need to actually start scrambling these eggs. For a vegetable, I'm cooking some frozen green peas. Our pickiest eater will eat all of these ingredients separately, so this makes for a very easy dinner. This is my bowl, super good, and the sauces make it very flavorful. So the pasta sauce with spinach wasn't great, but everything else turned out pretty good these last few days. I did start back to regular grocery shopping this week, but I didn't use any of those items in these foods that I made in the video. Now I'm showing some footage from the previous 8 weeks of Pantry Challenge. This was my first time doing the Pantry Challenge, and overall it was a good experience. It really helped to get out of a pattern of the same things and motivated me to make things I had bought the ingredients for but never got around to making. But I would have to say the biggest positive or benefit was really taking inventory of what I had on hand and figuring out items that I need to stock up on more, and also some items that I've bought too much of. Things we ran out of or got really low on were, and I'm sorry, this is quite a list: whole wheat flour, white flour, brown rice, cheddar cheese, cream cheese, brown sugar, butter, tomato paste, bread, bagels, frozen fruits, salsa, crushed tomatoes, frozen vegetables, tahini, and chips. Also, really was not prepared in the drinks department. We ran out of most kinds of tea bags, ground coffee, instant decaf coffee, flavored fizzy waters, and soda. We did run out of fresh produce, dairy, and eggs, but I just kept buying those during the pantry challenge. We were able to focus on using up some items that were at or near their best buy dates, like cartons of shelf-stable milk, bouillon cubes, frozen vegetables, crackers and cake mixes, and pecans and walnuts that had been in the freezer for a long while. I did spend a lot less money at the grocery store over the past 2 months, significantly less. However, I will be spending more than usual in the next couple months to restock items. So as far as saving money, I kind of see it as a wash. The only place I'm really saving money maybe is not splurging on treats simply because I'm not in the store as often, and also by using up items that maybe would have gone bad and have to be thrown away. I would say a potential negative or just something to be aware of is the amount of time it takes to prepare meals from scratch, especially if you are used to having more convenience items. As we started running out of those things, I did feel like I had to put a little more thought into planning out ideas for the week. If you already do this, it may not be a big change for you, but I am not a meal planner, so I'm used to having all the items in stock that I would potentially need, so I can just make whatever sounds good that day. But on the flip side of that, I spent hours and hours less at the store or driving to the store. We have small grocery stores and a Walmart in the town where I live, but to get to a Sam's Club, Costco, or Whole Foods, it takes about 50 minutes of total driving. I don't enjoy grocery shopping. I mean, I'm grateful that I'm able to go, but it's not something I look forward to, so it was really nice to have some weeks where I didn't go at all. I've already been reorganizing the pantry and other food storage spaces, and I plan to have a video about that in the next month. Now the work begins to start restocking. I will need to do a big Costco run to fill the freezers, and I'm putting in the largest Azure order I have ever done. That pickup will be in mid-March, and I will have a video on that as well. At this point, I think I will plan on doing the pantry challenge again, but probably only for 1 month with the goal of no grocery store at all. And if you watch this or any other pantry challenge videos I've posted, I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed making these food videos and plan to keep making them, although not every week. My family might enjoy a week or two of not having to navigate around the lights set up in our kitchen. It's not a big space. But as always, thank you so much for watching.